evening, and welcome to this edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. This evening, we will be remembering none other than Pele. Good evening. I'm Earl Baston. I'm your host. Joining me as co-host Dennis Brown. We are awaiting a few guests to join us momentarily, having a bit of technical difficulties. But Dennis, right off the bat, give me your recollection of his career that you know it, the man they call Pele.
Okay, my first memory of Pele was, remember in the 70s, and I'm revealing my age a little bit. Um, I was in primary school at West End, and our gym teacher, Englishman by the name of Mr. Lionel Turner, who was instrumental in Somerset's youth program back then as well, used to invite the then football national team coach, Mr. Alan Jones, up to West End. It seemed like he was up there like once a month. And every time he came, he put on Pele films, training drills, training films, the basic fundamentals, how you kick and stuff like that, different parts of your foot you kick with. And that Pele was the one who made me fall in love with football in general. So when we saw those highlights, films of Pele, like I said, in the 70s, that alone sent you into your backyard trying to kick the ball with the outside of your foot, kicking the ball with the inside of your foot. You know what I mean? The juggles and stuff like that. So he was the one who made me fall in love with football back in the 70s.
Mm. And we are joined by none other than Sam Newsom, Dennis, and we have the pleasure of having
Yeah.
someone who actually played with Pele. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you as well, Dennis.
Yes, you as well.
Yes, and happy to both. Happy New Year to both of you.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes.
Describe your first, I guess, your first encounter with Pele, if you can, Mr. Newsom.
The first one, I think they had the first day was they had the I guess the big announcement at the it was a 51 club in Manhattan, and because everything seemed to happen quickly, and suddenly we all got summoned to this press conference. And of course, well, we didn't get to talk to him there because obviously the press were only interested in him, so we weren't going to get anywhere near them. But that same night, we had to play a game in Philadelphia. So we, after the press conference, we all had got on the bus. I'm not sure whether he was with us at that point, but one of them, in fact, that became my first real sort of and ah position, because when we got to Philadelphia, who normally would draw about 5,000 people, another 11,000 people showed up just to watch him watch him walk across the field. He didn't play, just walk across the field, and 11,000 people showed up. So that was our first meeting.
Oh, okay. Dennis, you have an initial question?
Yeah, Sam. So what sort of, we all know that Pele was, talented, is known as the king. What type of personality did he have? Like, because I never really saw Pele angry. Always had a smile on his face. What sort of personality was he?
Well, there's just two things. One, he's he didn't ever try and put himself above the rest of us. He was always one of us. But the personalities, when you don't do what you're supposed to do, then there is another side. It's the game's all about trying to get a result. So yes, as with in any team, when he does have a temper when things aren't going right. So
as we know, most Portuguese do.
Yes, they do. Yeah, yeah. Yes, and he has an additional asset as well. So let's leave it at that.
But take us through a bit of that, because I mean, in that Cosmos team, you had I'm pretty sure guys spoke broken English, a lot of them, but that language barrier that you had across the board, how did you guys manage to kind of communicate? Well, football is easy
Well,
communication,
yeah,
but
you know what to say. Football is universal.
yes,
There's always, I guess, in my time playing football, I always learned a few words of this language, a few words in that language. And in fact, that team, and we had, I think, the base of that team had played. That was more like a South American team that year, because we had players that had played for Santos, players that had played for Uruguay. So we did. There was a base, and some of the guys could speak English. And in fact, with Pele, I don't think I ever had a problem where we couldn't understand each other. I think his English might have been better than some of the other people.
yeah,
Yeah. But football has always been about it. Football has always been about a good old shout, get your finger out, or like let's, or a mouth gesture, a hand gesture, or something to get the message across. And that's the way it is. And I think most of the teams I played, because they were all sort of multinational, cultural.
Mm. The man himself. I mean, obviously he had many people wanting to, I guess, quote unquote, reach out and touch and be around and
Yes.
draw a crowd. You sharing a changing room with someone like that. Did you feel at times, even among some other players, starstruck at times, and then have to pinch yourself that, hey, I'm in the changing room, changing up and playing with these guys.
Well, I guess I was probably the of the team that I was in, the one that probably had come out of what's seen as an amateur background, even though I'd been in the league for 4 years, and I had played sort of select teams for the represented the league. But the funny thing is that yes, I mean he was my idol, so I could say that I was starstruck. But once the training starts, the matches start, he's like, well, my idol, but we're all got to do our bit. And and like I said, when we got into training and stuff, he was one of the boys. So, and I don't think I can never remember once where he ever sort of put out that he was better than us or anything else. He's just one of us, except when he showed up for training in his personal helicopter. So that was. I get an hour and a half in traffic to make training. He gets dropped off on the training field in a helicopter.
Wow.
It's in the contract for the day he has to arrive.
It wasn't in my contract, unfortunately.
Whoa.
But even around so many nationalities in the Cosmos team, because the game, would you say the game was struggling a bit to make a name for itself in the U.S. before these guys came in, especially when Pele came?
Well, it was. I mean, it's we did. I mean, like we could spend another show just talking about some of the things that we had to do to try and promote the game, which could go on forever and ever. Things that we here growing up in football would never think that we would have had to do, but we had to sell the game. So yes, we struggled. I don't think we didn't have the American press behind us then. We were still the expat sport. So we did an awful lot. But back to the teams, all the teams, the Cosmos had. I think what people could understand was I had one of the guys was the Cockney from London, but he was my teammate in Montreal. And when we sat down to have a conversation, the rest of the team always wondered what we were talking about. It's easy. We speak the same language. So, but it's when I played for, I guess the only team that I played for that was probably almost totally English speaking was Vancouver. But when I was in Montreal, we had I guess 6 different nationalities. Cosmos, we had probably more because we had Uruguayans, we had Peruvians, Brazilian, English, Spanish. We had a few. I'm probably missing a couple, but and that was in the U.S. That was pretty normal for a lot of teams.
Dennis?
Okay, Sam. So you say you were at the Cosmos for 4 years before Pele arrived.
No. I was in the league. I was.
You were in the league.
My only year.
Okay.
I came to. There's a story. Actually, it's a story you must have. I never know I get to tell these stories again. But I was playing for Vancouver, and then I got a call from the club saying that the Cosmos wanted to buy my contract, and I was in a hurry to leave because I was actually quite happy in Vancouver. But then the Cosmos called me and said, "Well, you'd really want to be here because we got this really big name player coming."
Good.
So, but the story, don't get too far ahead of yourself. The player that was supposed to come was actually named George Best. So,
Okay.
And what happened? That broke down. I don't know what happened. So they I had signed anyway by then I was there, and then said we got this guy called Pele coming. I thought that's a pretty good substitute. And the rest of the story, it was one of those once in a lifetime years because it did change. It changed football. It got the US got really excited about it, and I saw things happen that I never thought I would ever see. One person have such an impact on a sport.
Yeah, like you said, he revolutionized the game in the US.
Yeah.
So what was it like to go from 3,000 spectators to like 60,000 spectators now? What was that like?
What is it was a shock. But it's more than because most of the league. I mean, when I was in Vancouver, we were getting about 11,000, 12,000 a game, which was considered a pretty good crowd. And like I said, New York, whenever I played against New York in New York, they were only getting about 5. But the first sort of indication what was to come, the first game that we played our first home game was in Randall's Island, which was our home field at the time, and we had pre-match meal in Manhattan.
Oh man!
Oh wow! Whoa!
Let's give him a second. There he is. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay. So if you know Randall's Island, it is under the Triborough Bridge. And that's what links Queens. It links like LaGuardia Airport, Manhattan, and the Bronx. It's a big roadway. So we came off the out of Manhattan at 125th Street, got on the bridge, and the traffic would move because everybody was trying to get to the stadium. We had to get off the bus and walk to the stadium. So that was our first home game. That was my introduction. So what one person can do to a sport in the country, and that was it. That was like that just about everywhere we went. Everything just exploded.
So let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we want to talk about that movement from that small stadium to Giant Stadium because you had to, the fan increase was enormous right off the bat. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Well, Mr. Newsom, that movement, clearly ticket sales demanded a movement to a bigger place. So when did that transition happen, and how did they explain to you guys that it was going to come about?
Well, that happened after me. That was, I don't know, a year or two later. It's just that by then, I think they had, being the Cosmos, had bought a lot of the best players in the world from different countries. And so, the demand was there. I didn't actually get to play at the Meadowlands till I was in my 40s. We had a reunion game against the Brazilian Masters and the Italian Masters, and we still, for a bunch of your guys, we still had 32,000 people there. So,
Oh wow!
So I did have my day in the Meadowlands with a decent crowd.
Sure. Dennis?
Yeah. So one of the questions: what was Pele's training habits like?
Well, his habits. Well, he also came with, I guess, his personal advisor, Professor Masai, and there were, he trained with us, but he also had his things that his specialized training for himself that he would do on the side. That's over and above. But in the normal training sessions he did with us. But I can't remember exactly what they were. I mean, South Americans have a different sort of regimen for training anyway. They're a lot bigger in breathing and flexibility than we were at the time anyway. So a lot of that got introduced into the training.
And another question: were you playing with Pele when Mr. Horton was there as well, or?
Well, there's a story. Well, Randy wasn't playing with us. I'll give you a quick story, because Randy and I both represented the NASL in an All-Star game against the Russian team, and we said it'd be nice if we could play on the same team one day. So when I transferred to Cosmos, I called Randy and said, "Randy, it's happened." And then a week later, Randy called me and said, "Oh, I'm in Washington."
Whoa.
So that All-Star game is the only game that we've ever played together in the North American Soccer League. So, and what we played against them, and if Randy's listening, and Gary Darrell was in that team, Washington team as well, we licked them. I think we beat them something like 7-2 that day.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
I don't think they'll remember that.
Don't worry, they were reminded. We're still friends, and when we come up, things like that come up.
So who were some of the players? Did you play with Giorgio Cianegli and those guys, or they came after you?
Giorgio was supposed to come my year, but he was playing with an Italian team, which I can't remember now, but he couldn't get out his contract. So he came to New York, and I met him, but I never got to play with him. So he played. He came later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the guys that in my team that year we had a guy that was. Start thinking names now. we had. I'll go once I can remember. We had a guy named Alfredo Lamas who played with Pele in Santos, who was a really good player. He was Uruguayan, and we had also our captain was, and I feel I've remembered all day because I wanted to get out because he's a really good guy, who had been the captain of Uruguay and fullback of Uruguay in the next 1970 World Cup. It'll come to me probably after we're all gone, but and we had the base of that team that year was the South American team. We had, so there was let's see, there was another guy from Santos called Manuel Maria, and we had a couple other Peruvian and a couple of Uruguayans. Plus we had, we had again two Israeli national team players. And we had a Spanish player, probably, and a couple of English players that have been in the league for a while.
Good.
I'm just struggling now. I'm just going. These guys will all kill me because if I could remember the name, but it'll all come back to me. Unfortunately, right now all the names haven't come back. Then we also had a few Americans. I guess the big name was the guy named Werner Ross. He became the American captain for the team. He was a good player.
Sure. The Uruguayan you're referring to, Omar Centeno?
No, not Omar. This is we had four. We had the one I'm referring to.
Julio Correa.
Julio Correa was there. I mean, you got the
Alfredo
picture.
Lamas.
Unfortunately, I can't bring the picture. Alfredo Lamas, Julio.
And Juan Masnick.
Yeah, that's it. One Masnick. Yeah, I think he died. So, but he was in fact not only he was the team captain, good player. Helped me out a lot, and always had a laugh. Unfortunately, he was a lot older than me, but he was an awful lot fitter than me. Saying that the South Americans do a lot with breathing and stuff. I mean, our training changed where we have to do all these sit-ups, and he used to, we'd do, I don't know, a couple of hundred at a time, and I'd be struggling. He'd be sitting there, there's an old guy sitting there laughing at me. So that was, again, that part. There was the teams and football. I think every football team I've had, the guys, most of the older guys have always been, the football players always part of a team, and years later when you meet them, it's still as if there's never been a separation.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, and this would tie in later on, but what made you take up the opportunity to play in the U.S.?
I think I told you that story the last time I was on your show sometime ago. And it's a true story. The story was, I had done a couple of things and they hadn't worked out, and I was back here, and I got a call one day saying that we're from Montreal, saying that we were looking for a goalkeeper. We want you to come up. And I said, well, at that point it wasn't exciting. So things hadn't gone well. I said, no. But I had just been married. I had a 4 months old baby, and we'd been on strike for 6 weeks, and they had a construction strike because I'm an electrician by trade. And they said, well, we'll pay you as soon as you get here. So I said, I'll be right up. And that's the true story. That's how I ended up in the league. So, and yeah, and I can't complain. I had 4 good years up there, and it's they're good memories.
Yeah, Dennis,
what was it like to be on the road traveling with Pele as a teammate?
It was probably better. It was probably better for me than it was for him, because we as a team, you get on the road, you've got airports and you've got hotels, you got stuff, and you got a game to play, and we're all sort of locked in to get to live it in to get the match. And after the match, we normally would go for a drink or something, socialize and unwind, because you're all you've sort of been piped up and to relax. And he never had the chance to be one of us in that part because of his popularity. He needed to be, I guess, out of sight. So a lot of times he he would basically do whatever he did would be in his room or with the select people in a private setting. It's just that because people would have been just all over him. And one of my favorite stories about that, we were in Seattle in a hotel that was on the water, and there's somebody has a picture of this. While the rest of us were out, unwinding, he had a fishing line out a window fishing from the Explored Hotel, and someone has a picture of him winding his fish up, coming up the building. So that was his entertainment. That was his entertainment and relaxation, I guess. In some places,
crazy.
Yeah.
They say fishing is a mellow thing to do. So
well, it was a good story anyway. And you think no, that's not the truth. And then someone showed us the pictures and said, yeah, that's him. Yeah.
So you said the Cosmos had told you want to sign because you had this big name coming.
That's right.
When they did tell you Pele,
you
gave us half a reaction. What was your real reaction?
Well, all they had to do was look at my face. Something was like, Christmas has come early, I guess. I think it was, Well, let's face it. Like everybody else, I mean, he was. I remember the 1958 World Cup and the '62, and when he got kicked to death in the '66 World Cup. And like everybody else thought, this is the guy. And my thing is, I got a chance to play with the guy. I got to train with him every day. I got to talk to him and travel with him, and and what I've said to most people, got to see just how big an influence he was on the league and to just people generally.
Hey Dennis, this is the big question here is, how many phone calls you get from Bermuda for tickets to now come and watch you play?
For real.
The funny thing, there were a few Bermudians in New York, and there were a couple. Everybody. Randy's more famous than me, so he probably got most of those when we went to Washington. But no, it was good. There was a few Bermudians that lived in New York that I knew, and if we could get tickets, we did. And I got, we all the players got a few game tickets as a normal thing. That was all part of the deal. And when we traveled, wherever we traveled, we always got tickets for friends, whatever we were, 2 or 3 tickets or something like that.
Sure.
So that was just all part of the game.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more. Dennis, you'll be out. We'll be right back.
Hello.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Dennis?
Okay, so Sam, who were some with Pele and your team? Who were some of your hardest opponents to play against?
Let's see. We had in the league. I've had a few. Actually, the big old-fashioned center forwards. I'll tell you a few stories. A couple. There's two I can remember. This in my first game in for Montreal. I was playing against Atlanta, and there's this big old Jamaican guy there. And in fact, I'll give you a quick story. They ran through the whole team, and everybody was from Spurs and West Ham and this place and that place. And then the coach got to the end and says, "Well, this is Sam Newsom. And if you can't play this goalkeeper, you can't play against anybody." Now Henry, who became a good friend of mine, he was a big 6'2", 6'3" strapping guy. And he just went through me. And I said, "Henry, not today. This is my day." So, and that became a standing joke for us when we played against each other. Then I played, when I was with Vancouver, I played against a guy that was from Aston Villa. David Hurd was his name, big old-fashioned English center forward, big burly guy. And we always knew that we had that team was, he was playing for Denver. And they were an English coach team, so you knew what the ball was going. The ball was going wide. The ball was going to come across, and every time that ball came across, I was looking at the ground upside down. So anyway, my father who taught me how to look after myself. So it was a really bruising game. Hopefully, he had as many bruises as I did. So those two things I remember for life, because I probably still have the bruises. Other than that, I had, I don't know, there was just a lot of, well, there was also this guy named Randy Horton. My first home game, I forgot about him. I have to tell this story because in my first home game for Montreal, we played against New York. And guess who scored the goal that caused me to lose the game?
Oh, whoa. Oh, man.
And I said to Randy, "You could have made me look good, But you get, with Randy, that just gave him a big old laugh. So yeah. And I played against because we had a lot of players at the time that were over there, and I'm struggling for names right now. I'm getting older and I can't remember what. There was a number of good. We had a lot of good professionals that played in those leagues. So in my team, I can drop names now. One of my teammates back then was a guy named Graham Souness, who you still see on television.
Mm-hmm.
He was a teammate and still a good friend. So it was good, and it was good that people just don't use you and throw you away, because the friendships you make, they stay. So I mean, friends have still done me favors and over the years. So I'm happy to admit all these guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know for sure that Brazil came to a standstill as they moved the body of Pele from the Santos grounds today. But just watching the scenes in Brazil over the last few days, I mean, it is taken over. It actually overtook a presidential election, the swearing in of the president in Brazil. I mean, what were the fans like? I mean, even in New York, I'm pretty sure that the fans that wanted to see him and be around him, what were the fans like during that period?
Well, the fans were always. I mean, I can't talk about what he was like away from the stadium, or how much privacy he got or didn't get. But on match days, I mean, everybody was there, not to see me, just to see him. So, you know, I was just a part of the show. But he was the guy. And as I say, when you look at that game that we played against Gary and Randy at Washington, Washington played in a big stadium, but they were drawing 5,000 maybe, and they went from 5,000 to 36,000. So, and that was again, that was probably about just every year we went, and that was because people wanted to see him, and if they could touch him. So.
Dennis?
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I mean, you just talked about Brazil. I say worldwide.
Worldwide, yeah.
Pele was, you know what I mean? Every country, you know, every kid, you know, the reason why Maradona wore 10 was because of Pele. The reason why Messi wore 10 was because of Pele.
That's right, yeah.
So at the end of the day, everybody wanted that. You know, I was different. I was a defender, so I wanted 4 like Franz Beckenbauer. You know, but
yeah. Oh, you did think you could stroll about the field like him. I do remember that.
Well,
the two were joined. The two looked like they were joined at the hip while they were playing for the Cosmos.
Yeah, look at them. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, and people get into this debate about the GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Right. Well, let's go back to
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
That point about the Cosmos. All of those players that played for the Cosmos didn't come because they wanted to play for the Cosmos. All those players came because they wanted to play with Pele.
Yeah.
That was the draw. I mean, they didn't need to come, but when the Kings has come, well, you know, they all came.
You know, and to follow up, you know, talking about it, you can't. You to me, you can never really say the greatest of all time, because you can't say Messi was the greatest because he's in a different era than Maradona. Yeah. You can't say Maradona's the greatest because he's in a different era than Pele.
Well, I put my 2 cents in for my guy because they're all
great.
They're all great. They have different skills. He was probably, I think, the best all-round player because every facet of the game he could. I just looked at a picture today and yesterday. I'd forgotten about it. I mean, from a standing jump, he's only 5'8" or 5'9", but he could jump from a standing jump most people who are over 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that he did. He was a great passer, and I used to watch him and Alfredo, the guy that used to play for Brazil, in a training pitch, sit there and both pass balls. They just spend a morning just dropping the ball on a dime because they just that he was such a good passer. He had, as we know, he could score goals. He was quick over 10 or 15 yards. So he was complete every skill in the game. He was good at all of them. And he just did all. And what really impressed me was that he never tried to showboat, except when we were leading and stuff, and he wanted to do the Hollywood things, backfields and stuff like that. But most of his game, he did everything well and simple. Didn't overdo it. It was just enough to help the team. So he passed when he needed to pass it. He shot when he needed. He jumped. He tackled. He did. So he definitely wasn't a prima donna. He was, the sort of player that I think all of us were happy to play with.
And to add to that, Sam, he was playing in a era where the players weren't protected like they're protected today.
That's right. Very much.
He took so much licks on the field. You know what I mean?
Well, he already said that 66 World Cup.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
You'd have thought he was the bull.
yeah.
He got kicked so much.
Yeah. And our league was a bit physical as well. So but again, he got no favors to the next 20 favors.
Like you said, he had 2 feet, left and right.
That's right. Yeah.
Good in the air.
That's why one reason is why I think that, because I know I've watched. I didn't get to see Maradona much, but I've seen Messi play a number of times, and there are certain things that Pele can do that is not part of. For instance, he's a far better header of a ball than Messi. It's like I sort of like get excited when Messi scores a goal off his head. Yeah. It's just that Messi is probably better at the close control. That he's strong, he's physical, but in the full packet, this one guy could do it all.
Yeah.
You got another one, Dennis?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, name your most memorable game played with, or games playing with Pele.
You're testing my memory now. To be honest, I don't think I can think of one like that. I think every game for me, just being on the same field with him, I think I'd have been the water boy and been happy. But just because I played most of the games he played that year. I think I only missed 2 games that year. So I was excited just being part, just being there.
So when he retired, I think he retired in 1977.
Right.
Were you there at that time, or had
No,
you
I was back here. In fact, that was my last year. I think for various reasons that we will get into, but I don't think after that year I could anything would have been like sort of just an anticlimax. I think because that year so much happened, we did so much things that I remember for life, that it would be just another day at the office. And after that, I think anyway, that's the short answer.
Okay.
But no, I did, and as I said, we went back. We had the Cosmo reunion in 1980 something, 4, I think 5. Randy remembers these things better than I do, and in fact, he was there. He took part of that, and that's the last time I saw him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you've seen the report, Dennis, or Mr. Newsom. The president of FIFA has said that he's going to work with through FIFA, have a stadium in every country named after Pele.
I did see that. Yeah.
How does that play out?
Whoa.
Well, that makes the rest of my story. I'll tell you all night. Just a bit. It justifies some of it, and the fact that my thing is that he made such an impression that it'll probably happen.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, we just named ours, didn't we? Just name ours, Florida Duffy Stadium.
Yeah.
I know who Laura Flores and stuff, but I'll have to go talk to her parents. Well, look, I think we got to make it add something to it. I think the way it was, the article I read was that everybody should have a stadium and put Pele's name as part of the thing. So maybe it'll be
have a stand named after Pele or something.
We can't take her.
I mean,
she can share it with him.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things it's going to be, let's use our country.
Yeah.
I mean, Pele has made a significant contribution to football worldwide.
Yeah.
But then you'll have this argument: how are we going to have somebody else when we have so many heroes in our country that we haven't honored yet?
And I think that argument, it's a good argument.
Yes, it's a very good argument.
That will continue. And I actually would strongly defend that, not because of me, because I've been pretty privileged, I think. But it's all of my heroes, brilliant heroes, who when I started trying to talk to people about them, they have no idea who I'm talking about, and that's not. I mean, that's probably just the generation before me. So yeah, I think as for I get when I travel, and I think same thing happens with Randy, probably Gary, and of course Clyde and Sean. Mm-hmm. That people seem to appreciate what we are and what we've done a lot more than we do in our own backyard. So that I would, and I don't know how you can change that. And I think we as the people, and I'm not going to try to put politicians and other people on the spot, but we as a people are just easily forget about people who have been doing things for us, who have done stuff. So, and I think again, I can throw that out to the whole country.
Sure. Yeah, I agree, Sam, because I've been saying that for forever.
Yeah.
And I think the politicians need to listen, because Bermuda has had so many world-class athletes, not just in football,
Mm.
football, cricket. I mean, even a lot of guys we had on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But Bermuda needs to have a sports museum where our young kids grow up knowing who Sam the Cat Newsom was, who Clyde Bass was, who Bommy Simons was, who, you know what I mean? We have to have that.
And I go back. I mean, there's the Bubba Daniels. People go,
Bubba Daniels.
and not have a clue. I've very often said to somebody, that is so and so. That's so. And I said, that's Bubba. That's. I haven't seen Bummy for a long time, but Dennis Wainwright. You and people don't have a clue who they are.
Yeah.
Because they're born and just forgotten. There's no, if you're somewhere else, there is something that says that you did contribute something in sport to that particular country.
Yeah, like you said, the people outside of Bermuda treasure you more than you earn.
Yeah.
Because I was in the UK in October, November, and I actually went to Manchester City's the training complex. Also I went to watch an under-18 youth game, and also at the senior level. And when they found out I was from Bermuda and knew Sean Gooder, and I actually used to play in the national team, Sean Gooder, Mercy, they were like, "Can I have your autograph?"
Then it's just seeing my lines.
But hey, they treasure athletes overseas. It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah. Well, just a recent story. You like this because it's a Somerset guy. I suddenly got a call a couple of months ago that somebody said, my uncle-in-law is visiting Bermuda. He really wants to get to see, if he can meet Clyde Best. So Clyde being Clyde, let me rearrange it. And this fellow, I had to sit there listen to this old man gushing over Clyde Best for
unbelievable.
It's like that would never happen to Clyde here. Yes. Yeah.
But what we're going to do is we're going to take our final commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this edition and we'll talk more about the man, Pele. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
welcome back. Listen, what is something that you will always treasure about your relationship or your being around Pele?
I think one, because that he was, I guess, you sort of have all these dreams what you think people would be like. I think I was happy that he turned that all everything I thought he was the person. And again, it was just that experience, the fact that he and I think I told you the story once before that in that year we suddenly had to play a lot of extra games because we became the traveling circus because everybody wanted to see him, and we were playing. God, we must have been playing every 3 days sometimes, I think. And we had a situation where the players weren't getting paid for it, and we decided that we were going to go on strike, and we made a fuss to the management, and he told the management, if the players aren't going to play, I'm not going to play either. And that on itself, that meant a lot to me because he was the guy. He could have just said, well, get me some more players. He says, no, I'm with the guys, and that meant more to me than anything else.
Dennis?
Yeah, I just want to say it was a pleasure to be talking about the greatest, to honor Pele, to in my opinion, he was definitely the greatest player that I've ever seen play. Although the others are good and great, but Pele to me was the greatest there ever was. He was the beginning. He was like the Michael Jordan. This came after Pele did and practiced what Pele already did. So at the end of the day, Pele to me was he revolutionized football worldwide, not just in America.
Dennis, I knew that if you and I talk long enough, we'd agree on something. Just to bring up the Trojans.
Yeah, you licked me in
But
my
no,
ear once too.
I actually agree with you 100% based on what I've said already, and just the man that he is was. He's still he was. I think Randy said it well that he was a humble person, stayed a humble person. So, I can't think of one bad thing that I'd even think to say about him. So, and there's not many people you can do that.
I agree.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us this evening to talk about the one and only Pele, and to his family, friends, and to the world. May he rest in peace. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Enjoy your night.
Okay, thank you, Earl.
Thank you. Enjoyed.
All right.
Okay.